to my channel Modern Modis. In today's video I'm going to show you how I made this Fringe jacket. I traced my jean jacket to create this pattern for this jacket. I'm working on the video for that right now so you can see how I traced this, since this is the pattern I'm going to be using for all my fall jackets that I'm going to make and all my winter coats that I'm going to make too. Yeah, if you'd like to see how I made this jacket, keep watching. Here's how I cut the fabric for this project. I started by making my fringe for the sleeves as a trowel because this is my first time doing fringe, so I just wanted to make sure that this fabric could handle the fringe. Start by marking where you want the fringe to be placed on the sleeves. I measured for my fringe to sit 3 inches from the side of the sleeve at the base and 4 inches from the armpit. Next, cut a piece of your fabric the length of the line you marked on the sleeve, minus 1.5 inches for seam allowance, by the height you want your fringe to be, plus ½ inch hem allowance. I cut my 2 sleeve fringe fabrics to be 21 inches by 6 inches. You need to use a non-fraying fabric for this. Cut along the fabric, leaving 1 inch at the top until you've created a fringe. You could trace the lines with a ruler first, but I didn't, and luckily I found the fringe very forgiving. You could also use a rotary knife to cut the fringe. After cutting the fringe, pin onto the sleeve, folding the top edge under ½ inch. Make sure you've left seam and hem allowance on both ends. Sew the fringe onto the sleeve. I sewed along the edge and then about 3/4 inch from the edge. Repeat with both sleeves. Now to add the fringe to the back fabric, mark where you want the fringe to go. Measure up the armhole the same measurement between the fringe on the sleeve and the nearest armpit. I forgot to do that at first and then corrected it, that's why I have double marks here. I wanted my back fringe to angle into a triangular point in the center, so I cut 2 pieces of fringe instead of 1 long one. Measure the length of each half of the line you marked and cut out the fringe for each. I cut the fringe fabric on an angle since it will be placed on an angle on the jacket. After the fringe is cut, pin the fringe onto the jacket the same way you pinned the fringe onto the sleeve, and sew. Next, mark on the front where you want your fringe to go. Measure and cut your fringe and sew on the same way you sewed on the back and sleeve fringe. Pin the fronts and back, right sides facing at the shoulders, and sew. Open the jacket so the right side is facing up and pin your sleeves onto the body. I cut my sleeves to allow for a shoulder pleat, which is why you'll see me adding a pleat to the shoulder. Don't worry though, you're not missing out because I wasn't happy with the way it looked and I ended up removing them later anyway. Here's how the sleeves look sewn on. Pin, lining up the armpits, down the sleeves and sides of the jacket to close the sides of the jacket, and sew. After closing the sides and trying on the jacket, I decided I wanted the fringe to be a thinner fringe, so I cut each strip in half. I decided that I'd cut the fringe on the sleeves and back later since it takes a long time. Now I'm going to assemble the lining. I forgot to cut the lower neckline for the lining fronts until later. I also ended up cutting the lining twice because I forgot to consider the stretch of the faux suede, so I had to cut the lining over. Assemble the lining the same way you assemble the jacket. Attach the sleeves, then close the sides. For the collar, lay the two collar pieces together, right sides facing, and sew together around the two sides and top edge. After sewing together, cut the corners off and cut triangles, or share the hem allowance of the collar to reduce bulk in the seam when turned right side out. Now turn the collar right side out. I use scissors to gently push out the corners. Top stitch around the sides and top edge of the collar. Pin the collar onto the jacket. I lined up the center of the jacket and collar by folding the collar in half to find the center and align it with the back center. Then pin the rest of the collar to the neckline. For the pockets, I cut two lining and two outer pockets. Sew the lining and outer pocket together, right sides facing. Make sure to leave one side open to pull the pocket right side out. Turn the pocket right side out and sew, making sure to fold in the open edge close. Pin the finished pockets to the jacket. I pinned my pockets 2 inches from the bottom of the jacket and 1 1/4 from the inner edge of the jacket. Sew the collar onto the jacket. Then sew the pockets onto the jacket. This is when I tried on a jacket and decided that I didn't like the pleats that I added to the shoulders, so I undid them by seam ripping at the shoulders and sewing down that extra fabric and cutting it off. I also, at this time, cut the rest of the fringe to be thinner. Pin the lining to the jacket right sides facing along the bottom and along the collar seam. Make sure the collar is facing inside the jacket when pinning along the collar seam. I ended up adding too much extra to the ends of the lining to try to match the faux suede's fabric stretch, so I turned the jacket right side out, pinned the lining side seam to the outer jacket side seam, and cut off the excess lining. To sew the lining and jacket sleeve hole together, put the edges of the sleeve hole together with both sleeves inside out and sew the sleeves together around the perimeter of the sleeve holes. Now pin the zipper to the jacket, folding in the edge of the jacket and lining the 1/2 inch hem allowance. Make sure the zipper is properly aligned on each side. Sew the zipper into the jacket using the zipper foot. Make sure your zipper zips and you're all good to go. To finish the jacket, top stitch along the bottom of the jacket, along the sleeve hole, and around the neckline. I sewed 2 top stitches along the bottom of the jacket. And that's it. You're done. I always wanted a Fringe jacket, so I'm very happy with the way this one came out. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment below letting me know if you have any requests or anything you'd like to see me make, or if you have any questions. And stay tuned because the video of how I traced my jean jacket to get this pattern is coming soon. Thank you. Bye.